Hello and welcome to Neville Arena. I'm Ryan Sylvia. This is Noah Taylor. We're with VolReport.com on the Rivals Network. Tennessee, 6th ranked Tennessee, goes on the road, tries to play number 1 Auburn, and comes up just short. An elite defensive effort, but a lot of room to be desired on the offensive end. What stands out to you right now as we're standing on the court just a few minutes after this game ends? The elite defense or the room that they need to grow in on the offensive side?
I think it's the defense. I think given that Auburn's success in this building, arguably the toughest place to play in the country, and Tennessee comes in here having not played well on the road this year. You had the 30-point loss to Florida. You had the late comeback against Vanderbilt that came up short, but spent a lot of that game in a 10 or 12-point hole. But that defense keeps you in this game. And I mean, it just kind of felt like, at least for me, coming in knowing how tough a place this was to play, knowing Tennessee hasn't had a lot of success here. I think it's their 5th straight loss in this building. It just felt like every time a Tennessee possession didn't end in a point, if it ended in a turnover, ended in a defensive board for Auburn, and Auburn would come down and score, just felt like, okay, well, here's the beginning of the run. They're playing, this crowd is juiced, it's packed out. It just kind of felt like Auburn was going to have a takeover any moment, and they didn't. That just never came, and the next thing you know, Tennessee's got the lead with a minute left. And I think you got to credit their defense for that. I think the offense obviously had its issues, but I think ultimately Rick Barnes will take this defensive performance, and I think that's ultimately why back there he kind of came across as a little bit more positive and maybe a little bit more upbeat than he normally would be after a loss. They didn't have a lot of breakdowns, and they hung in this game and played the style of play that I think he would prefer more often than not.
Yeah, and that's coming against a team that's not only the number 1 team on Ken Palm and adjusted offensive efficiency, but by far the number 1 team. And I thought it was really impressive how Tennessee kind of dragged Auburn into the mud with them.
Yeah.
Like this is a team that can score whenever they want, it feels like. And Johnny Broom is probably not at 100%, but he plays, and he plays pretty well. But with him even on the court, Tennessee's able to make it a 22-20 game at halftime, and both teams start to get the offense rolling a little bit more in the second half, but even that final score is kind of ugly compared to what Auburn's capable of doing. So I did think that was really impressive. I thought Jemai Mashak had a really good game. You talked about those situations where it looked like Auburn, maybe here it comes, here's maybe a little bit of a run that Tennessee won't be able to respond to. I thought coming out in the second half when Tennessee's offense still was struggling, that Jemai was a really big piece of keeping them in that game.
Yeah.
And that was on both ends, not only with the tip in, but he dives on the scorer's table and keeps a ball in play, and Tennessee gets a free 2 points out of it, just things like that.
Yeah.
I thought he was great. I thought Zakai Ziegler was great as well. Yeah. And Zakai really, obviously on the defensive end, but on the offensive end, continues to carry a really big load for Tennessee. Is that concerning at all, that you're not getting support around Zakai Ziegler, that Chaz Lanier's not shooting the ball as well as he was earlier in the season, that Igor Milicic isn't putting up the numbers he was earlier in the season on the offensive? Like, how sustainable is that for Tennessee if they're not getting that help, and do you think that help's going to come at some point?
I think it will. I mean, you saw a little bit. Obviously, this Tennessee team is different at home, and you could say that about really anybody in this league. But they you go back to that Mississippi State game, that Georgia game in the second half. Chaz Lanier looked like he shot out of a slump. That slump, I think I can't even remember what he had against Mississippi State.
Over 20.
Yeah, I think 23 is what he finished with in that game, and kind of felt like he was kind of getting over that hump at the right time coming in here, and finishes with 10 tonight. Which,
hit a big 3.
But yeah, hit a big 3 that put Tennessee ahead, and that was kind of the moment for me, when he comes in, and that's coming off that. Speaking of defense, Felix Akpara hits that block shot. Sakai gets it, dishes it to Lanier, and he hits the big 3. And it kind of felt like at that moment, wow, Tennessee might win this game. But I think those moments will come again for him. I think he had a solid performance, all things considered. Consider how this team has played on the road this season, how he's played on the road. I think that's kind of been the biggest issue for them. But you're seeing, I think you're seeing some progress there. Again, the loss at Florida, Tennessee wasn't really all that competitive in that game. You look at the loss at Vandy, had to play from behind, for the 7-minute mark of the first half all the way through. And then here tonight, toughest place to play in the country, and you had the lead in the final minute. So I think they're getting better at that and finding ways to stay in these kind of games. But I do think it is a little bit concerning. I don't think you can ride Zakai like this the remainder of the season. And it's going to be big for Igor to obviously stay out of foul trouble. I mean, I think he had 3 fouls in the first half and spent a lot of time on the bench. But I think those two guys are going to – and I also think this kind of performance, the way they played, is going to be something that could carry over in future road games. You're not going to play in a tougher venue the rest of the season like this.
And Zakai, he's been great, but I think when you start getting chats and you're hitting shots, you start getting, you are penetrating more. You continue to have that lob threat with the two forwards, Kate Phillips and Felix Akpara, that maybe helps out Zakai too to maybe get a little more efficient.
Yeah.
And you know, he doesn't have the greatest shooting night, but it's not like he got off big clean shots either. So he was really the main piece of Tennessee's offense, which comes up just short. This is kind of away from the game, but when Bruce Pearl took this job at Auburn and he first played Tennessee, all anyone could talk about was Bruce Pearl playing his former school.
Yeah.
And you continued that throughout the years as both of these programs continued to rise.
Yeah.
Every time they played each other, it was, well, this is Bruce Pearl playing his old school. I think you count on one hand if you've even heard at all about this being any sort of storyline in this game. What does that say to you about where both of these programs are at? That is still a pretty cool storyline, but it's a little old now. But it's really just not a factor at all, because if Tennessee was bad and Auburn was good, I think that's still a storyline. Or if it was the other way and Tennessee was good and Auburn was bad, I think that's still the main storyline. But instead, it's really not talked about at all.
No, I think you're spot on. I think it says a lot about where these programs have ended up, and you could say it's been beneficial. What kind of went down there and transpired has kind of been beneficial for both teams. I mean, the talk tonight is going to be one of the best college basketball games of the season. Certainly one of the best games today, and there were a lot of them. I think that speaks volumes about what Rick Barnes has done and what Bruce Pearl has done, obviously. And you're right. Coming into this game, it just didn't seem like that was really as big. It seems like it's been less and less of a big deal every time that they've played, and now it's come down to more of this is a game with SEC title implications. This is a game with seeding implications. This is a game with, Jimmy Dykes, I think, tweeted at one point in the game, it's a preview of the national championship game, and that had nothing to do with the coaches. I mean, I guess it does have something to do with the coaches, but not, the names. I think that just says a lot about them and really the league as a whole. I mean, I think we watched a lot of basketball today coming here, and obviously you get a chance to do that when you're tipping off at 8:30 p.m. But to have SEC games all on a Saturday be the biggest games, the most important games, the closest games, I think says a lot about this league. And then you play a primetime game that I'm sure everybody was tuned into and really got their money's worth, the people that were here and people that got to watch at home too. So I think you're spot on. I think it says a lot about what Rick Barnes has been able to do, and Bruce Pearl at Auburn.
All right, well, that'll do it for us here in the arena. We'll have more coverage over at VolReport.com on this game, but also with a big football recruiting weekend. We'll have content from that. Tennessee wrapping up their efforts in the transfer portal and kind of turning the page officially over to next season. Tennessee baseball right around the corner. The Lady Vols, Kim Caldwell, she'll meet with the media tomorrow. I guess we'll probably find out if she plans on officially being back for that big-time South Carolina game on Monday. So coverage, everything Tennessee athletics over at VolReport.com. Links to everything you need in the description. Thank you for watching.